In 1974, Jack Nicholson, a rising star in Hollywood after the last few years of acclaimed roles in films like Easy Rider, Five Easy Pieces, and The Last Detail, received a phone call that would upend his life and would probably even today, after subsequent decades of wild success and public and media attention, still be considered one of the craziest moments in his life. And let's face it, when you're talking about Jack, one of Hollywood's most legendary actors and most infamous hellraisers, that's saying something. But even someone as naturally rebellious as Nicholson wasn't ready for the revelation that awaited him when he was contacted in '74 by a Time magazine reporter working on a profile piece on Nicholson. It seemed the reporter had discovered some contradictory information regarding Nicholson's family background, at least as far as Nicholson understood it, and the reporter was calling Nicholson to inform him that the woman he had spent his life believing to be his sister was actually his mother, and the woman he believed to be his mother was in fact his grandmother. Let's back up. In 1936, a young New Jersey woman named June got pregnant by her older boyfriend Don, who also just so happened to be married to another woman at the time. Ethel May, June's none too happy about this mother, threatened Don with the Mann Act, a law meant to target trafficking of minors, but which was also often used to criminalize even consensual acts. Ethel May ordered Don to keep away from June and their family, and he did so, missing the 1937 birth and subsequent life of his son, Jack. June, meanwhile, who was 18 when she gave birth to Jack, had aspirations of stardom, but was worried what the scandal of a teenage pregnancy and out-of-wedlock birth could do to her and her family's reputation. To avoid this potential shame and protect her daughter, Ethel May agreed to raise Jack as her son, and allowed June to pretend to be his much older sister. A few family members knew the truth, but nobody ever bothered to tell young Jack, who grew up believing the deception. June fled to Miami to become a showgirl when Jack was just 4, leaving him behind with Ethel May. But when Jack himself later decided at 17 years old that he wanted to be a star as well, things got even more complicated. Jack wanted to move to LA, but only knew one person living there at the time, the woman he believed to be his distant sister, June, who herself had recently relocated to LA to continue pursuing stardom. And so Jack moved in with June, resuming what he understood to be a sibling relationship with the woman who was actually his mom. Ultimately, Jack would, slowly but surely, find stardom, which is why Time magazine was profiling him and uncovered the truth in the first place. Unfortunately for Jack, both June and Ethel May had passed away by the time he learned the reality of their relationships, meaning he was unable to ever speak to them about these revelations. To make matters even more ironically complicated, at the time Jack learned all this, he was preparing to release the soon-to-be classic Chinatown, which famously features an incest subplot, with Nicholson's character forcing Faye Dunaway's character to admit her sister is actually her daughter. While Nicholson was understandably confused and distraught about these revelations for a time, he ultimately came to peace with the truth. Once telling Rolling Stone magazine he was impressed by June and Ethel May's ability to keep the secret as long as they did. And though he wouldn't speak much about the story in later years, he would occasionally jokingly, and perhaps even lovingly, refer to June as his sister mother in interviews. Interestingly enough, around the same time Nicholson was learning the truth about his family, an actor named Richard Roundtree was playing his breakout iconic character Shaft for what he probably assumed was the final time, in a now largely forgotten 1974 one-season Shaft TV series. At the time, Roundtree couldn't have expected that he would later return to the character 2 more times, decades later, to first play the uncle of a new Shaft in a franchise reboot, and then, years later, once again return to, with shades of the Nicholson family drama, reveal that, in fact, John Shaft was not the uncle of John Shaft Jr., as previously explained, but instead, actually, his father. Can you dig it? The year is 2019, and New Line Cinema is ready to release the latest reboot of a classic blaxploitation franchise, with a newly comedic take, but still the same name as both the previous reboot and the original, and in the process hopefully relaunch the action comedy franchise with Shaft. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Welcome once again to Failure to Franchise, the show dedicated to some of Hollywood's most infamous mistakes, missteps, and misfires. This is Trev.
And I'm Chris, here to discuss the 5th Shaft movie, the second Shaft reboot, after Shaft, complete with 2 previous Shafts returning as Shaft, while adding a new Shaft to the Shaft chat in this newest Shaft movie titled Shaft. Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
I know, it's the only series where you can legit say, you know, I think Shaft is better than Shaft, but not as good as Shaft. It, no matter what, no matter it works. However you feel about it.
There is some good things to say about Shaft.
What?
Well, I'm just adding to the Shafts.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, we're well. Look, you know, we
I even confused you in that. Unbelievable.
I know.
Okay,
yeah, you went cross-eyed earlier, and then I just went cross-eyed. We promised at the beginning of this month that we were going to get double shafted, and we were men of our words. And you know, 1978, Superman the movie proved that you did believe a man could fly. And this is the movie that the 2019 Shaft proves that you will believe that Samuel L. Jackson does not age.
Yeah.
Across 20 years. In fact, This movie is so confident of him not aging, it even starts with a flashback that goes back to 1989, and they barely do anything to de-age him. There's like 1989 to 2019. Yeah, he looks the same. So as we, not to bury the lead, but as we just said, we are looking at the third movie with the same title, but the 5th movie in the series, the second reboot. Oh my God, now I'm doing it. And that is 2019's Shaft. Chris, why don't you tell us about this particular Shaft?
I'll try.
I'll never get sick of saying it.
Okay, this one is directed by Tim Story.
The great Tim Story.
Well, okay, we'll get to him a little later, because I have kind of just a log line for him and his career.
Well, you and I have a history with him too. I don't know if it clocked to you, because you and I have watched a Tim Story movie together before. Infamously. Yes.
Infamously.
There is a 2021 movie entitled Tom and Jerry.
Yes. Yes, we did watch that.
We watched that over Zoom, yes.
Yes, okay, so sidebar before getting back into like the stats and all that other, the credits in this. You're so right. During the pandemic, I've mentioned this a few times in this podcast that, you know, between 2020 and about 2022, like about two and a half years there, we were actually pretty steady in getting our Comic-Con group that we all, like, I mean, you guys are all from Michigan, and I met you guys at Comic-Con years ago, and then we stayed in touch, and then basically because of the pandemic and everybody, you know, getting online more and talking through Zoom, we started actually connecting on a fairly regular basis, weekly or bi-weekly, to watch a bad movie via Zoom. We would time it. We'd all watch it together. And typically I would drink so much booze that's why I forgot until literally just now that we watched, Tom and Jerry, the live action hybrid movie that might be on our list. I'm not even sure.
It probably should be. I wouldn't, and I wouldn't call it like the movie he's most remembered for. And in fact, I certainly did not remember he directed it until roughly 30 seconds before we hopped on this recording, and I looked up his filmography and I said, "Holy shit!" So that's why I wanted to throw it out here before I forget again. You know.
Well, he did rise up, Tim Story, with music videos. So he did, like a lot of like acclaimed directors do, even the ones we love or dislike.
Well, especially directors who kind of burst onto the scene in the 90s and early 2000s. Yeah, that was definitely like a more direct track back then.
And one of his bigger hits, especially starting his career, was Barbershop. And then he moved into franchise filmmaking, and I kind of want to throw these stats at you first before jumping back into Shaft 2019. But he directed the 2000s movies, both of them, Fantastic Four and Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, and of course, Fantastic Four was a moderate hit this year. I wouldn't even say a big hit, but it was a moderate hit. And but this was he took a crack at it. He got 2 goes at it back in the 2000s, and back then the total budgets for those 2 films was just over $200 million. They made $623 million, so quite big hits. Which is kind of strange because like nobody likes those movies, and that's maybe a through line into this man's career. But he's like his movies succeed And the Fantastic Four movies did, and so did his Ride Along franchise. Ride Along 1 and 2 he made. $65 million budgets, and they made $279 million. So again, mega hits. So Tim Story has a resume.
Yeah, he's not unsuccessful, because even he did also in 2012, he made Think Like a Man, and that got a sequel also, Think Like a Man 2 in 2014.
Totally.
So, yeah, he's had 3 duologies. You know, he does have some others in there, like I don't know if Taxi from 2004 is on our list. It probably should be, because I know it's a remake of a French film that had multiple sequels, so they're probably planning that for the American one, and it didn't work out. But he's definitely he's had 3 occasions where he did get sequels made off his work. And to be fair, like, it's like there, you know, he's also got some movies in there that are better respected than others. You know, like people like Barbershop is quite popular. And actually, Barbershop spawns a franchise as well, even though he didn't do the sequels. So he has spawned 4 franchises technically. I still haven't seen, but I still really want to. I've heard great things about 2022's The Blackening, the horror movie, the horror comedy he made about like you know, the prevalence of like, or the treatment of black characters in horror films. So I definitely want to check that out. I've heard almost like nothing but positive things about it.
Oh, cool.
So it's not like Tim Story's not one of those. He's not like I wouldn't call him like a Brett Ratner, where I hear his name and I'm like, oh God, you know, like Tim Story or whatever. Because even like, I'm not a huge fan of the Fantastic Four movies, but I think Rise of the Silver Surfer is pretty okay, you know, for what it is. He just seems like one of those kind of like journeyman directors to me.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, so,
this is how I'll just kind of give you my log line.
I have like no
now.
opinion about him, I suppose. That's what I'm getting at.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm very similar, but like I guess my log line is kind of, he's not like a household name by any means, but he is like one of the most unremarkable and extremely successful directors within the know. Do you know what I mean? Like, people know a film by Tim Story if you know this industry, right? Like, my parents don't know Tim Story, and you can't really sell a movie on him in the marketing, but people like you and me who follow this stuff so closely, we kind of know what we're going to get from a Tim Story movie, you know? And like, I think I'm glad you mentioned Brett Ratner, because I think there is a similarity there, but Tim Story's doesn't seem like a huge piece of shit, number one. So he doesn't have any skeletons, I guess, yet.
Not yet, yeah.
But Tim Story in general, like I always find like when I listen to other podcasters or even other people that are in this industry, like they'll talk positively-ish about Tim Story, but also, like you said, he's like a totally okay journeyman guy, but he's made a lot of big hits, which is interesting.
He's one of those directors who's made enough big hits that he can keep making bombs and still be in consideration for like more studio stuff.
Yes. Totally.
It definitely helps. He has the right set of genitals in Hollywood, right? Like, so it's this wouldn't be the case if he was a woman, but as a man, you know, he has enough early successes to chug along through like the, you know, the failed Shaft reboots and the Tom and Jerry's of the world. So when you have spawned 4 franchises, you know, you're always going to be in consideration. So
totally. Okay, Shaft 2019. It is written by Kenya Barris. They worked on the short-lived Terry Crews sitcom Are We There Yet? I'm pretty sure that was the sitcom version of the movie. So again, a little bit of a franchise adjacent situation going on. They also created America's Next Top Model and the series Blackish, and wrote the movie Girls Trip, which a sequel has been talked about for many years now. So that might happen one day.
Let's hope it happens.
Yeah. And then the other writer on this is Alex Barno. He's a TV guy. He produced The Goldbergs, very successful. So basically, there's a through line with these 3 creatives that there's a lot of black culture and comedy influences, especially.
And again, a lot of success too, because you have to remember, like,
yes.
you know, Blackish ran for a long time.
Definitely.
And I want to say, was Blackish, was that a spin-off of The Goldbergs, or were they just kind of like same network, same night? So I think for some reason in my head I always associate those 2 together, but I I'm looking now. It looks like I'm wrong about that. But,
Okay. There wasn't even maybe a kind of through line.
It had a spin-off called Grownish. Maybe that's where I'm getting thrown
There you
up.
go. Yeah,
And
Goldberg's Grownish.
it had a prequel series too called Mixedish. So geez, it had its own little mini franchise.
Wow. Well, so again, yeah, a lot of success actually in these three creatives that are spearheading this thing. Also, if you haven't listened, please go back to it. But the first movie we did here was Shaft from 2000, and we talk a lot about Shaft, but just we don't really talk about comedy. Mm-hmm. So I really kind of want to hammer that home, that this has a lot of comedy people behind this one, coming into a brand new reboot thing, legacy sequel thing. I also just want to mention that it's based on the character created by Ernest Tidyman, that old white guy we talked about last time.
Just another white man profiting off of black culture. Nothing new in America, as I guess we're doing with this month too.
It's true. Yeah. The budget of this movie, $35 million. Domestically, this was a horrendous bomb. It made $21 million total. And the reason why it only made $21 million in its entire theatrical run is that it did not get a worldwide theatrical release. This is because in 2017, Netflix actually signed a deal with New Line Cinema to cover half of the budget. And then basically with that, it was agreed upon that they would release the film internationally just 2 weeks after the theatrical release in the US. So at this time, especially before COVID, there was a lot of experimentation with release structures, right? You mentioned, actually, it's funny you say this. You mentioned Brett Ratner's name just right now, and it just popped into my head. Remember when Tower Heist was a thing, that movie? And then there was this big kerfuffle debate over it going right to paid video on demand for $100 or whatever.
Yeah. That was the Tower Heist.
Yes, so that was the price point was ridiculous, but it was kind of ahead of the curve because during COVID, that's kind of when things changed, and the WB especially led that charge of day and date releases. So beforehand, this was actually kind of innovative for Netflix to sign a deal to get a brand new Sam Jackson sequel reboot thing. And with a pretty well-known IP to go right to streaming. So I actually found this quite innovative. But only
worldwide too, right? So that's
yes.
That's the unique thing about it, because that actually threw me for a loop, and I either forgot that or I was never aware of that being a part of this film story, because I usually save this till we get it a little later in. But I will just say I did see this movie in the theater. I won't say what I thought about it then or now yet, wow. But I will say I did see this in the theater, and so when I sat down for this rewatch. And the opening credits started, and it said Netflix. The Netflix logo came up. I was very confused, and then it's a Netflix film, and I was I really had a moment where I'm did I hallucinate seeing this in the theater? Is this a Netflix movie? I was so baffled, and then so that actually sent me running to the internet to check on what's the deal with that, and that's when I learned about how okay, this is a co-production with Netflix, and they were only doing this worldwide. I was not aware of that, and it's to make it not more confusing, but to just kind of clarify from our last episode, the last Shaft movie was from Paramount. New Line and Warner Brothers had bought the rights to Shaft in between. But apparently they did not have. Well, I guess that's something we're going to talk about right now, right? They bought the rights, but did not have the confidence to treat it as a fully they didn't have as much confidence in this one as Paramount did of the 2001, obviously. So
no, totally.
They decided they wanted to have someone help cover the costs, and they were willing to sacrifice the worldwide release of it to Netflix. And it's just interesting.
Very, very strange. Very strange, especially because this was my first time watching this movie, by the way. The other episode before this one explains kind of mine and Trev's relationship to Shaft, the IP, and this is all new to me. So, like I said, listen to that episode for a lot more in-depth discussion. But the Shaft IP franchise, everything about it is very new to me. I've always been aware, but this is my first foray into it. And Shaft 2019 is on Netflix in Canada. So that's where I would have watched it in 2019, but that's where I did watch it this time around. So it's just interesting to know that it was a partnership on that side. So,
and that's what I mean. I'm sure it probably does pop up on Netflix here in America, and maybe it currently is. I don't have Netflix at the moment, but I don't think it's by no means still even exclusive to Netflix in America. I think, it has physical media releases here, and it probably can be shopped to other streaming platforms. I mean, actually, if its American distribution was through Warner Brothers, it might be on HBO Max. I don't know. I didn't look into it, but
I guess I want to go back to the how much money it made though for just a quick second, because of course the international market was ripped away from the box office earnings, but $21 million over the course of 2 weeks, plus a little bit longer, because I guess obviously piracy must have taken place. Like that seems obvious. But even if you give it the benefit of the doubt for a little bit here, $21 million is an absolute disaster. Even on a budget that's this small and split up 50-50, we talked last time about the success and the money that the other franchise movies made. And, the Sam Jackson one from 2000 actually did make a lot of money, like a good amount for the time, especially. And Sam Jackson at this time in 2019 is kind of like, he's like Mr. Marvel. You know what I mean? Like he's everywhere. Like, I mean, not that he ever went away, but I guess he's like so cross-pollinated across other huge IPs that like, this was a total just misfire. And that is interesting to hear that you went to go see it. I know you I know you like Shaft a lot. So, but 21 million is very, very, very low.
No, and if memory serves, I went to see it kind of already sensing like I'm probably going to be one of like 5 people seeing this movie, because so let's dissect this a little bit, because I think it's interesting. We don't have a lot of other behind the scenes stuff, so in lieu of that, maybe we can just kind of dissect what the hell is going on with this movie, right? Because I said the first kind of question and mystery to unravel here, as if we are the private detective John Shaft, is why, if you are Warner Brothers and New Line, why would you buy the rights to this property if you were not going to treat it seriously, right? If you weren't planning to do something big with it, unless it did seem just valuable enough to them to make it more of like a minor thing. But even that's still strange to me, right? My assumption has to be, and I want to ask if you agree with this, I feel like this movie must only exist because Samuel Jackson really wanted to play Shaft again. And he was at that point in his career, like you said, like his star had only grown since 2000. He is Nick Fury now. He's a bigger megastar. The world has always loved him, but it's just he's hit a different stratosphere now.
Yeah.
And I have to feel like if he's had a bug in his butt to be like, man, I really wish I got to another crack at Shaft, he was going to make it happen, and a studio was going to be willing to bend over to make it happen, but with caveats, right? To say like, okay, you want to play Shaft again? There might be potential value in that. We're not going to give you the same kind of budget. We're not going to find a John Singleton to direct it. We're not going to even put up all the money ourselves. We will try and find a co-producer. We will sell the worldwide rights to streaming. So when you talk about this being an experiment, I think it's probably more just like it's almost like a weird indulgence of a passion project. But with the studio understanding the kind of reality of it, right?
I really agree with that, and just to give more evidence too, he makes Glass in 2019 as well. Yeah. So like the sequel to Unbreakable gets going finally, and Sam Jackson has a huge role in it. Right. And it's a pretty juicy role, too. So it's like that's happening. Incredibles 2 got off the ground, too. And not that he's like the main character in that, but he's still Frozone, especially to a huge generation of children, millennials and Gen Z and so forth. So I think this one is like even Return of Xander Cage, like Triple X, the sequel that got going, too. Like during this like 3 to 4 year period, these long dead, quote unquote, franchises are being revitalized, and he's on the poster. You know what I mean? And he's like, again, we talked about him in depth last time about being part of a ensemble, but I think I totally agree that he's like, you know what? I always wanted another kick at the can at this one, but I didn't want to deal with those producers like I did. I didn't want to deal with Scott Rudin anymore.
it had to stick in his craw, right? Because one of our thesis elements of the last episode, and you definitely should go back and listen to that one. I think it really is one of the best episodes we had in a long time. But,
yeah, I was very, very happy with it. After we talked about it a lot more longer, putting it together, it's really good. Not to pat ourselves too much on the back.
No, it's a really fun conversation for a movie that we were both kind of like, eh. but one of our thesis statements in the episode was talking about how that movie was like his coronation in Hollywood, to say, like, you've been an ensemble guy, you've been a very dependable actor that everybody likes. Here's a franchise of your own. Here you are, finally the main name and face on the poster. Here you go. And it was a big hit. And then he never gets to do sequels. That had to like stick in his craw over the years, right? So I'm sure it was just like, I imagine, like, not too many years went by before he's like, why didn't I get to do a Shaft 2?
Yeah.
And it kind of kept burning, and then he finally gets to the point where he has the clout to make it happen. But as we said, too much time has passed, because that's the other question mark, right? We have to remember that the first one was a big hit, as you said. So it's kind of strange to not approach this one, if you were the people making it, with the mentality that this has the potential to be a big hit and give it another big budget and really, really go for it. It doesn't feel like that's the sense. So it must have just been the passage of time. Maybe they put out some tracking feelers and stuff, or just like, I don't know, because I think when I went and saw it, as I said, it seemed dead on arrival. It felt really underpromoted. I was only aware of it because I am a huge movie nerd, but I don't think the general audience knew a new Shaft was coming out. It was pretty much just dumped out there. So yeah,
I would say, like, I'm pretty in the know.
Yeah.
And I either had forgotten or genuinely did not know that this movie existed until I think you put this on the list, like whenever you did, right? Yeah. But like in 2019, I can confidently say that in the year that Nick Fury was in 3 different movies, Glass, Captain Marvel, and Avengers Endgame, I had no idea that he was in another movie called Shaft.
Yeah.
So I also found it interesting that, like, because I completely agree. Again, this is total Sam Jackson maybe flexing a little bit, saying, let's get this done. If I can get 2 studios to split the budget, maybe we can get this to go. And also, let's do what I wanted to do with the first movie, as make this kind of a 2-hander, generational John Shaft and his kid solve a crime. Yeah. Because this one does what the first one was supposed to do until Scott Rudin was like, throw that all out, and tons of problems in that production. This one just felt like, yes, this is like, let me have the redo of what I wanted to do. Now, when we get talking about the movie, this one is quite different. So that is interesting to see that Sam Jackson maybe wanted to flex more of a comedy muscle, but we'll talk about if that works or not. But
and also knowing now, like I said, finding out the Netflix of it all actually really, to me at least, helps me understand the movie on a different level, I think, because you just said it's generational. I guess we can just say there's no sense beating around the bush. This is very much like kind of a passing of the torch movie, from the Samuel Jackson Shaft to the newest generation of Shaft, John J.J. Shaft III, just pretty much called JJ throughout the movie. Yeah. Played by Jessie T. Usher, and we'll talk about him in a moment. But I was just thinking, when obviously the series could go on with like Samuel Jackson and him together, but it really kind of feels like maybe more they're thinking, well, after this, Jessie T. Usher will just entirely take it over. And of course that seems like a shaky proposition, because at this point Jessie T. Usher is somewhat known. He's like a little bit of a star on the rise, but obviously not a big star. But then you think about the Netflix element, and I realized, like, maybe the reason Netflix got involved and were like willing to just be the entire worldwide distributor is maybe they saw this as an opportunity to say, let's use this almost as like a pilot, and then after this we will just do a Shaft series on Netflix with Jessie T. Usher, or just straight to Netflix movies with this JJ Shaft, who is not necessarily a cinematic big screen icon, but we can make him like a streaming character that we keep coming back to. So it seems like the very much what the movie's designed to do makes more sense when you consider this as like a streaming movie than as a theatrical movie almost. Yeah.
Well, especially getting TV people just involved. Like Tim Story notwithstanding, Kenya Barris and Alex Barno are TV people. Like, like that's what they're known for. So I completely agree on that thesis. And maybe, not to bury the lead, because usually we talk about this after our thoughts on the film, but we already know this was like a huge bomb. why didn't this keep going? Well, Jessie T. Usher gets cast as A-Train in The Boys.
Yeah, say Jessie T. Usher actually had a great 2019. It's not because of Shaft. It's because The Boys started. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, if that's the case, then Netflix saw this as a perfect, exchange of IP and then TV related content for their streaming service. And especially at this time, Netflix is about to pop off, like truly pop off between, 2018 and 2022. Right.
And they can't even capitalize on that because Shaft comes out in June of 2019 and The Boys starts in late July. So it's like, It was already out of theaters by that point, It's like, if they had just held that Shaft release just a couple more months, maybe they could have been like, hey, A-Train is the new Shaft, and like maybe it would have got, I don't think it would have been a hit, but it probably would have got a little bit more eyes on it.
Also, he would have, Jessie Usher maybe would have had a little bit more of a decision to make, versus am I going to go onto this brand new, untested IP show on Prime, which at the time, Prime didn't really have much. The Boys has really become their show. Like, that's kind of their big hit. Or do I go on Netflix?
Reacher, yeah.
Reacher for sure.
Yeah,
okay, no, I'll accept. In 2019, was Reacher on in 2019?
Well, no, but I'm just saying if you're just talking in general, I would say if you're putting into category, like The Boys is its like nerd hit, and then Reacher is it's dad's hit.
Sure. So, okay. Yeah, I agree with that. Mm-hmm. You may have nailed it in the sense of like, again, why didn't this keep going? And I think it's because a lot of it, well, not a lot of interest theatrically, not a lot of buzz. Critics didn't really like it.
No. And let's say to be fair, like I know I just said like it's kind of strange that it was kind of treated the way it was because of how big the previous movie had been.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as we alluded to in our last episode, that last movie did make a lot of money, but it was one of those, and these happen from time to time, it was just one of those weird hits where like a lot of people went and saw it, and then like nobody clamored for more, including the people that made it, except maybe for Samuel Jackson. But as you said, it was kind of miserable for a lot of people involved too, because of the fighting behind the scenes and everything. So. Yeah. It's a movie that made a lot of money. People remember it. The poster and just the fact that Samuel Jackson once played Shaft was iconic. But it's not like people spent 19 years wondering, is he ever going to make another one? He might have been the only person doing that. So,
you because you were at the theater.
Yeah. She just got me to make this, But yeah, no, I just think this movie obviously had a lot riding against it, and like I said, it was pretty clear where it was heading by the time it even came out, And in fact, I don't think I'm even going to put this forward. Like as you said, I am I've seen all the movies. I would call myself a fan of the franchise to a certain degree. I'm pretty sure I saw this in the theater only because at that point I did have the AMC A-list, so I was like, I was seeing way more movies at that point because I could just justify seeing anything, Sure. And so this might not have been open. I don't remember for sure. This might not have been an opening weekend viewing for me. I might have saw it like the next Wednesday or something when I just had some time. And it's like, whenever you had some time and you have A-list, you're like, I'll just go see what's ever in the theater. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll see that new Shaft. Why not?
Well, I am just anxious to hear what you have to think. Or, sorry, I'm anxious to hear what you have to say about your thoughts on this thing. So I think let's just jump into it right after this short break.
Hi, I'm looking for...
Shaft?
Mm-hmm.
Who's asking?
John Chef Jr., your son.
My son? Junior?
Yeah.
They say that cat Shaft is a bad mother.
Shut your mouth.
Ignore him. He thinks he's a black James Bond.
That dude was real. He think he was me.
If you gonna pursue this investigation, I'm gonna have to babysit your ass.
Damn! Oh, look at here!
How long's it been?
Never long enough. Lady Syphilis, Madam Chlamydia. It's lovely to meet you both.
That's Junior's mama. She a little bitter.
Please tell me that you did not get our son involved in your bullshit.
What is wrong with you?
She picked up a bat.
You can't beat up a woman.
Why not?
Because she's a woman. That's like misogynistic.
You the one being misogynistic. I ain't mentioned her gender.
Okay.
I'm an equal opportunity ass whooper.
Damn.
Oh, there's no non-violent people in Harlem?
Who's the black private dick that's a sex machine to all the chicks?
You damn right.
Sarge, you okay?
Yeah.
Boy, back in the day, we didn't need guns. All we needed was our bare knuckle.
Damn, Grandpa.
Oh, you can't be too prepared. Let me get mine.
Damn, you back here having a knife fight?
Oh, hell no, I shot him.
You damn right.
What's up?
Oh, what are you doing?
His glass didn't break.
Get in here, JJ, come on!
Can you dig it?
FBI data analyst J.J. Shaft works to uncover the truth behind his best friend's untimely death, as it's an all-too suspicious drug overdose. This leads J.J. to his distant deadbeat dad, John Shaft, who has skills of the streets needed in solving the case. And in doing so, maybe they can mend their broken familial bond.
Ah, yes, exactly what everyone was looking for in a Shaft movie. Family drama.
Yeah.
And, well, not even family drama, family yuck-yucks, as this is definitely a more comedic Shaft. So, Chris, I will go first, because I said this is a second-time watch for me, and just have some more familiarity with the franchise. And there hasn't been an episode in this long where I've been very, very curious about how you feel about the movie, and just can't wait to hear. But I'll go first, because I will just say, obviously, this movie has a very negative reputation from the few who did see it. It bombed. It was critically maligned. Nobody seemed to like it. A lot of people were kind of dismayed by the comedic direction it took. Definitely a lot of discussion about whether this movie was even necessary. It's all pretty much already forgotten today, as you mentioned. And here I come with my hot take that, for me, this might be the most entertaining, rewatchable Shaft movie. Now, let me quickly clarify. That is not me saying this is the best Shaft movie. In fact, I'm not a crazy person.
Yes,
I know
big asterisks right now.
huge asterisks. Of course, the 1971 Shaft is a much better movie than this.
But also still just okay.
But also still just okay, right? And that's what we said about the last one, too, right? And that's what I'm going to say about this one, is that, to me, I think this one is just okay. However, what works for me on this one is that I guess let me put it this way. I don't think this is a good Shaft movie. I don't think it's in the spirit of what the franchise should be or anything. But I think that if this movie had been the first Shaft movie made after the original franchise, I would be more infuriated by it. However, I think that 2000 movie being a buffer in the middle kind of acts as this kind of nice through line to where because I wasn't super into that one, I kind of come into this one with a different expectation where I'm just whatever. Do whatever you want with this franchise at this point, right? I just think it's cool that Samuel L. Jackson's getting to play this character again that he's obviously liked playing. And so I don't think it's a very good Shaft movie. I do think it's a pretty funny Samuel L. Jackson as a grumpy old man detective and his woke, Gen Z son teaming up to fight crime movie. Obviously, a lot of our review is going to be on the comedy aspect of it. I think the comedy largely works. I think Samuel L. Jackson is very, very funny in this. I think his chemistry with Jessie T. Usher is really effective. And so this movie has its problems. I'm not going to not address them. We can also even get into some of the political messaging of this movie and just the overall direction it takes. I would even say Samuel L. Jackson does not seem to be playing the same John Shaft he played in the last movie to a certain degree. And I made comments in the last time about how I'm not sure the previous Shaft is really a great even tribute to blaxploitation. We can have the same discussions here, but I'm not gonna lie. I have a smile on my face watching this movie. I think I'm actually and not an ironic smile. I think the humor is largely working. And I just kind of like I said, because Shaft had already been kind of thrown off the train tracks a little bit by the last movie, This was like not an offensive like a new direction for me to kind of go in a more comedic sense. And the last thing I'll say, I do want to pass it over to you, but I'll also say, you know this about me too. In general, with like my franchise and stuff, I like kind of like tonal shifts and tonal like experimentation.
Sure.
And like we've looked at things in the past, right, where someone takes a more like serious property, like a 21 Jump Street, right, and says, well, let's do more of a parody of it. So like I think for me, this is the 5th Shaft movie. It's 20 years after the previous one. Nobody was asking for it. I'm totally fine with you making like a more like, not to the level of parody, but a more silly Shaft movie. So I was just more open to this, and yeah, I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I do find it pretty funny.
Yeah. Shaft, and Shaft are just okay.
Yeah.
Like it's and they got they have different levels of okay, right?
Yes.
You know, like the one from the original Sam Jackson one is like drama-ish, you know? Mm-hmm. And this one is funny-ish. And then they get the people from Blackish that made this one, right? So it's like everything is kind of on this weird little like teeter-totter of like tone and just because I agree with so much of what you're saying. I really do. Mm-hmm. And I think we will be a splinter difference between our opinions. So what makes this one, I think, because I agree. Okay, Sam Jackson's playing a different John Shaft.
Yeah.
And this one starts out, we already talked about it. It starts out with a flashback to 1989 and that he had a son, and then he became an absent father. And I have my issues with that. I just want to get them out right now because I don't like retroactively making Shaft a distant deadbeat dad. And I think it hurts the last movie and it hurts this one in the sense that from like a dramatic crux, and I know this is going more comedic, but however, your arc of the movie is to get Shaft to love his kid again or whatever. You know, and to start out from such a place that, you know, the first movie that he was in revolved around a plot of a young black man being killed. And like, of course they didn't have this plan for this movie back then, but to know that he went through that plot not thinking like, oh man, this could be my kid. Mm-hmm. You know, that kind of makes me, you know, squint my eyes. You know, that bothers me. And then also adding to like the black absentee father stereotype. I think that is something that, I'm sorry, this creative team should have known better. Right? You have the right people involved to sidestep that. So to make it like Shaft is supposed to be our hero, and now he's just a deadbeat. And he's mean to JJ, like the whole movie. He's like dressing him down immediately. And don't get me wrong, I do think it's funny because I'm not a square. I think these jokes are funny. So like I this is my brand of humor to a certain degree. You know that I have an allergy to anti-woke stand-up comedy in the post-2020 world. That millennial versus boomer humor. I kind of have an allergy to it nowadays. If I watched this in 2019, I think I would have laughed more.
Yeah.
But since 2019, I've seen too many anti-woke comedians be so painfully unfunny with this type of genre, like this level of humor that I butted up against it a little bit.
It gets pushed too far sometimes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Like that generational divide, low-hanging fruit humor. Anyway, but again, because you have Sam Jackson in this role and he's turned up to fucking 15 out of 10 and he is so high energy, he is so crass. Like this movie would have been a disaster if it wasn't for him. And you know, Regina Hall too, like we'll get to her too. I think she's fantastic. I think she steals every scene she's in.
As you would expect. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. And shout out to Scary Movie 6. Very excited for that, especially since she's going to be back in it.
She's also in One Battle After Another, the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie. It's a great time to have Regina Hall stock. So
totally she's in it. So again, I don't want to like shit on this too bad, but like it doesn't really it doesn't exactly justify its own existence, but it is like a solid Netflix streaming movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right?
100%.
This is better. This is more rewatchable than Spencer Confidential.
Oh my God. Yes, by a country mile. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, this is getting close to self-parody, but it doesn't quite get there, so it doesn't jump the shark too bad, but it's getting close.
No, I think it straddles that line pretty well, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think Jessie T. Usher is very likable, very nice. He's got a simplistic charm to him. He's not exactly like the heroic figure that I want to follow along for more movies or anything.
But he's got good comedic timing, which is probably more what's being asked of him here. So.
Correct. But zero gravitas. Zero.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, when he's cosplaying as Shaft, it comes off stupid. But like, again, we said it last time, but Sam Jackson is a never bad. And even if I do not exactly like this version of Shaft on like a fundamental level, I can't help but like laugh at him being so aggressive and reckless that he's torturing guys and robbing them, and he's become a sociopath.
That is okay. So that is the secret sauce of this movie, right? And I want to come back to that because you mentioned the thing about the absentee black father, right? And like this idea of like how the writers, coming from these shows about black culture, why are they playing that stereotype? I really think, again, we said this last time, right? When you have Samuel L. Jackson at your center, first of all, it just solves a lot of your problems because he's just so watchable. But we both said, and we agree that he's not playing the same. He is canon-wise, continuity-wise, everything. He is playing the same John Shaft from the previous movie, but he's not. When you watch the movie, you go, this is not the character I saw in 2000.
No.
And I actually think he is playing it, and I think the movie is pitched to the level, at least it was on the page, to where I do think they were actually very aware of what they were doing with like that stereotype and with some other elements of Shaft, because essentially what he's playing in this movie is kind of a parody, kind of a satire of the public perception of the Shaft character.
Sure.
He's pitched to a level where, because we talked last time how the previous movie was too oddly sexless, and how other than like a couple quick lines, he's not presented as like this very sexual figure, even though that was like a big part of the original Shaft. This one, we were introduced to him where he, when we first meet him, well, after the flashback, when we're introduced to him in modern day, he has been going down on a stripper, and his beard has all the glitter in it from that. He is just completely like sex driven in this one. He, as you said, we play into the stereotype of him being the absentee dad and sending his son, he never sees his son growing up, but every Christmas he sends him condoms when he's 10 years old. He sends him porno mags. As you said, he's more prone to torture his suspects. He's more prone to just shoot first and ask questions later. It's such a parody of like blaxploitation tropes and like the private eye character that I actually think that's what they were aiming for. I think the problem, it's not even, I don't know if it's a problem because I do find the movie funny. I honestly think they were trying to like make kind of like a satire of that. And that's even why they have the JJ character in there. And I think on the page, I think the idea was like, oh, won't it be funny to show how out of date this like 1971 kind of blaxploitation trope character is by contrasting him with the more modern day JJ? The issue they butt up against, and maybe should have realized, is that we might find Jessie T. Usher likable, but we're really going to be with Samuel L. Jackson. So it makes it feel like the movie is kind of more supporting the Samuel L. Jackson side. Yes. And I don't know if that's what they thought would happen on the page, but it does happen when Samuel L. Jackson plays John Shaft II, because you're like, yeah, this is my hero. I get it. JJ's your main character, but I'm always more interested in what Samuel L. Jackson has to say. So I think the movie's not trying to like sign off on his attitudes and his outdated mentality about everything, but he's the character we're going to find the funniest because he is the funniest and he has the most natural charisma.
Yes, like you enjoy seeing JJ on screen because he's just so pleasant.
Yeah.
However, the real movie is watching Sam Jackson be so belligerent and, again, so crass, and ask his son to describe pussy to him because he thinks he's gay. Yeah. And
a scene that even if you find that funny on it, like, is like, you probably won't keep finding it funny for the 4 minutes it goes on for.
Yes, and like, I was pretty shocked, just like every single scene Sam Jackson is in, he is, again, belittling JJ.
Yeah.
Like, to the point that it's like, man, did they need to be father and son? Like, I think that's maybe what I was butting up against, was like, this almost works as like a buddy cop movie if this was just like the new Rookie, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But there's like a piece of me that was like, well, he's still his kid, and he was a deadbeat for the last 25 years, sorry, and now he's like just treating him so horribly. but like not horribly enough that, like, again, yeah, you're so right, it's the power of Sam Jackson. I'm never thinking like, man, this guy's such a prick, get him off my screen.
Mm-hmm.
I laughed pretty much every single time he called him gay.
I know, that's the weird thing, right? There are so many times where he says something, and of course, a part of my brain goes like, "Oh man, I don't think I'm supposed to find that funny." You know?
No, totally.
And you know, I think you and I both hate when people say like, "Oh, you couldn't make that movie today," right? It's the Blazing Saddles thing. You couldn't make Blazing Saddles today. Yes, you could. You know, you just have to, like, because you have to be aware of like the kind of humor you're using and stuff, right?
Yeah.
That being said, this movie is full of like a lot of humor that you just don't see in studio movies today.
Correct.
That they are a little too nervous to do. So, and I get that this movie at this point is already like, you know, 5 or 6 years old, but on this rewatch, I was kind of sometimes shocked by like, oh man, like, that's a lot of gay jokes. That's a lot of, making fun of overweight people, you know,
Yep.
and it's just, and it's, I don't like, again, I don't think you or I are easily offended by that.
No, we're
and I
not.
never
We're
really
not.
was offended. I was just always surprised.
Well,
But
I think it's
but
surprising.
I also laughed a lot of it because Samuel Jackson's naturally funny, you know, like.
And again, you're surprised because, yes, it is true that these types of jokes aren't in these movies anymore, especially made by studios, you know? And I think you kind of forgot that even up until 2019, this movie was doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and I just recently rewatched like Wedding Crashers and Anchorman in the last couple weeks, and every time Vince Vaughn was on screen in Wedding Crashers doing anything, I was like fucking crying, laughing, and I'm just, there's something when you get a comedic performance like that, or again you get Sam Jackson like that, just like leads the charge, total movie star shit. You're just more forgiving of what's being said, because again I said to you, I don't, well, I said to the audience, because you know me, but I don't like anti-woke comedians, and what I mean by that is I don't like the whole, well, you can't say anything anymore, like, you know, and it's like, oh, am I gonna get canceled and blah blah blah, and quote unquote pushing the envelope. I don't like that shit. I think it's so it's lazy. But again, I find this type of humor funny. I find Austin Powers funny. I find this type of low-hanging fruit, yes, funny. Like, I'm the guy that laughs at the fart jokes. Like, this is the kind of, I'm glad we're meeting kind of together, and it's funny enough that Shaft 2019 brought us together in a comedy for once, because this podcast has a history of comedies that usually. Well, not usually, but yeah, maybe usually.
Yeah, here you go. Here's a comedy I actually like, Chris. There you go.
Yes, I know. You took that fucking thing right out your fucking ass.
For Shaft, for 2019 Shaft.
So I think it is pretty funny that this is like the great equalizer for me and you, that we both found this moderately okay, but fairly funny. But this is what happens when you get a motherfucking movie star doing
if you're
this
only
shtick.
coming to it for laughs, it'll work for you. If you're like, boy, I sure hope this is a good Shaft movie. Well,
terrible.
Guess what? You're out of luck.
dude. Let's focus on that for a second, because they don't have a villain in this movie.
No, this movie is missing a Peoples very much,
big time. There's like an unknowing threat. The plot, I will tell you right now, Trev, could not give less of a fuck about.
I was going to ask you if you could summarize the bad guy's plot to me.
No, I cannot.
There is in fact, here's where the comedy can screw up the movie too. There's a moment late in the film where the two Shaft and his son, JJ, are in an Uber, finally laying out in an exposition scene the bad guy's plot. They're talking to each other, and this is the moment that you as an audience are supposed to figure out like what has been going on. And yet they keep having them get interrupted by the funny Uber driver. And so it's like, oh man, I'm actually trying to somewhat pay attention to what they're saying because this is your story, but they keep distracting you with these jokes about the Uber driver getting too involved in the conversation.
So Cuddy was running the drugs, Gordito was selling them, and Benny was laundering the money.
Hey, excuse me, I'm sorry. Do y'all want some mints? Charge your cell phone? Y'all need some music or something?
No, thank you. We're good.
All right, well, you need something? You just let me know.
Thanks.
Got it all right here for you, okay?
Okay.
So I figured Dominguez was using Cuddy as a pawn to get in the game with Benny and Gordito.
Did you say Gordito? Ain't that like a big burrito or something?
Say what?
She is good.
When the other brothers found out, then Cuddy tried to just cut him in, but Kareem wasn't going for that.
Wait, speaking of the Kareems, why come y'all think it is that Jabbar don't get the credit he deserves? He scored more points than Jordan, LeBron.
Baby cakes, in case you ain't noticed, we trying to work some shit out back here, all right?
Oh, you just having a conversation out loud, so I thought I could be in there, my bad.
Now that still don't explain the mosque.
Well, maybe when Kareem didn't take the money, they tried to just make him happy by having Benny forward his amount to the cleric.
Right. That way the cleric would know the money was dirty.
Yeah, but I don't think that Kareem could live with knowing the truth. Cuddy couldn't have any loose ends, so their only option...
Kill Kareem.
Y'all gonna kill Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
No, but I'm about to kill you if you don't mind your damn business and drive this fucking car.
And by the end of that scene, I was like, I couldn't track anything they were saying because of that. So I've now seen this movie twice, and I could not, for the life of me, summarize what is happening. And especially, there's this whole subplot with the involvement of a mosque and how the mosque is being used to help launder this money, or not. I guess it's not, right? That's the thing, is they're using
who knows?
it, and I don't know. I still don't know, because it's this whole thing where, is the FBI just being too racist or not? I still don't know the answer to that at the end of the movie. I just still don't understand if they are involved with the otherwise main villain Gordito, who we hear his name a lot through the movie and don't meet him until the last 10 minutes of the movie. Yeah, that whole part is bad.
Yes. So as a dramatic, interesting crime thriller in the Shaft universe, this is a gigantic failure.
Yes.
For a pretty funny, low-hanging fruit Sunday matinee on my Netflix, not too bad.
Yeah, and that's why I said, to me, for this movie for me to be as accepting of this movie as I am, the 2001 has to exist.
Yes, I agree.
Because if you had only had the original Shaft movies, and then the 2001 never existed, and then in 2019 you're like, we're bringing Shaft back to the big screen, and I watched this, I probably would have been furious. I'm like,
Yeah.
What? But the 2001 had already kind of been a little bit of a whiff, so I was like, all right, you've this is the magic of lowered expectations.
Yes.
And being we've already reset what you feel about this franchise, so now let's just have some fun with it. Why not?
It goes back to sometimes your argument to me about if I, let's say I like something a little bit more than you do, and it's based on a pre-existing property, and you'll be like, well, it betrays the existing IP. You're so right that having the 2000 Shaft be part of the existing franchise and already kind of just being utterly okay, and also not exactly feeling like a Shaft movie, feeling like you're watching Sam Jackson, play dress up, in a lot of ways, that yes, it softens the blow. It softens the blow from this. I don't want to call this some Looney Tune, silly, slapstick, naked gun thing, because it's not. However, if they probably pushed the comedy maybe 3 more degrees to the right, it could have been close.
And I'll say this, I will say it does, because of that, because of how comedic it is, it does have, I would argue, more of an identity than the previous movie.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think we walked away from the previous movie going well, the problem with it is that it doesn't really feel like a Shaft movie. It kind of doesn't feel like anything. It's perfectly watchable, but it is just whatever.
Mm-hmm.
At least this one you would point to and say, oh, that's the funny one. That's the comedy Shaft movie.
Yeah.
But what's the 2000 ones other than it's the 2000s one, and that's not really an answer.
Yeah, it's the
So at
Peoples
least
Hernandez movie.
Yeah, it's the Jeffrey Wright takes over movie. Yeah. But this one at least is okay, I'll always remember that this is the more goofy one.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of takes over the movie, Regina Hall. She is just always great in everything she's ever been in.
JJ's mother, Samuel Jackson's ex-wife. Yeah.
Yes, Maya. She is, first of all, Regina Hall, always just so good looking. I just want to get that out of the way. But she
I would say also a never bad Regina Hall.
Correct, yes. And can be very dramatic and can be very fucking funny. In a bunch of different genres of comedy too. Look, she's in this one. She, like I said before, some slapstick stuff like Scary Movie. She is just, she's the whole package, I would say. Very talented. And the Girls Trip connection too, I guess. Hey, Kenya Barris writing that. She's in Girls Trip. But she steals every scene she's in, so much so that I almost wish it was like a three-hander in a lot of ways. Like a full, if you're doing the family movie, you know, if you're doing the generational Shaft family genealogy show, bring in Regina Hall for like everything. Like, don't cut her out as much. And that just, you know, comes down to, well, you reach a certain age, you got to play mom. So that's what happened here. But I think when she realizes why John Shaft, Sam Jackson, is back in her life, that is some of the best moments. Like at the restaurant, and then meeting up with while he's when Sam Jackson's standing there with those two girls, and then she walks up to them.
Damn, girl, you looking good. How long's it been?
Never long enough. I can see you're enjoying yourself as usual. Lady Syphilis, Madam Chlamydia. It's lovely to meet you both.
Then she goes into the mirror, goes into the washroom and kind of like hypes herself up that the power of John Shaft will not take over her. And she's like hyping herself up to herself, and she's like, and then it does that nice hard cut when she's leaving and she was standing beside someone the whole time. Love that.
This old white lady. That's a great comedic cut.
So good.
Really...
How did this motherfucker know where I was? Is this motherfucker following me? He's trying to get me back. Motherfucker, I don't want you back, and I'm happy. I'm so happy. I want to be the happiest bitch. The girls aren't even cute. They look sad. Did they look sad to you? Look sad to me. I like a nigga with no swag. I'm about the swagless motherfucker with a check. You think just because you walk around here smelling good, I'm not even mad. And because you got a big fucking, I mean, honestly, fucking niggas.
And then she's in that restaurant on a date with this other guy named Ron, and I loved because the whole thing is you're wondering, okay, well, somebody needs to match for somebody to have a child with John Shaft and also have this type of relationship, not just for a lack of a better word, a hua, to not just one of his conquests, you know, to really feel like Maya has history with Shaft, that she means something else. You have to really understand that her character can kind of go toe to toe with him, you know? So she's fiery and she's got this confidence to her, and she can talk shit to Shaft when nobody else can. You know what I mean? And like in that restaurant scene, it's just so funny because like there's a big shootout that happens and they do a little bit of a setup and payoff in that scene for the next shootout. But like it's being like, big thing happens and Sam Jackson's saving the day, and then he's like, you know, don't pretend like this didn't used to turn you on. And then her date Ron is like freaking out and screaming, and then she just screams at him back, just stop screaming like a bitch, Ron. Like, it's just so funny, and she's got such great timing, and you totally buy that Maya and Shaft could probably be a couple. You know, they could probably have made it work over these last 25 years. So very much a yin to your yang. And I think she's just an excellent performer, a great character. And I wish she was just more in it, really.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think the movie would have benefited from her presence, increased presence, especially through like the middle of the movie. Yeah. No, it's a scene stealer for sure.
What do you think of Alexandra Shipp as Sasha? Kind of JJ's potential Maya, you know what I mean? Like the next generation Maya for this new generation Shaft. She's
certainly in the movie. I hate to say it because I'm gonna say like Alexandra Shipp is beautiful, I love seeing her on screen, and I hate to because you never want to do that with an actress and just boil them down to that. But the movie is not asking much more for her than to just be beautiful.
Dude, her X-Men movies were doing the exact same thing.
I know,
like she keeps getting dogged in every one of her movies.
It's too bad. I think I guess what I will say actually to be a little nicer, and I think this is the testament to her is that. The character, there's not much there on the page, but she is, again, Alexandra Shipp is just so kind of like naturally lovely that you do like the character and you understand why JJ would be so in love with her because it comes across on screen. Yeah. She is given she's given one moment to play that again speaks to what I was mentioning earlier, where I do think the movie on a script level is more of a satire than maybe even Tim Story was able to direct it. And that it really came across in like the final editing and like with Samuel Jackson overpowering it. But one of the other moments that I think to me speaks to the idea that they are making fun of some of these tropes and some of the ideas of some of these like outdated kind of misogynistic, ideals is the moment where in the shootout in the restaurant where JJ finally picks up a gun and starts like, killing bad guys. And we see the camera like panning in on her and slow motion and she's getting turned on by it, even though to this point they of course are both like so anti-violence. Yeah. And I think that's a moment that's like, that could come across as like really cringe and like, ew, what are they saying about women? But I do think it's actually supposed to be like mocking that, it's like a parody.
It is. And that's the setup and payoff joke that I was talking about, right? Like it makes this through line that every Shaft has their girl that is going to end up, being their equal on that level. They're going to witness a Shaftism and be immediately drawn to them, but not in just a pure conquest way. Right.
She plays that moment well, right? She's not. It's just a non-verbal performance at that point, but she plays it well. So again, I just just like Regina Hall, but on a different level. I just wish Alexandra Shipp was probably given more to do. So, but happy she's there, I suppose. Glad she got a check. Hey, can I ask really quickly? I know, again, speaking of people aren't given a lot to do, but I think we're probably both always happy to see, as Lost fans, the Man in Black is here.
Oh yes, Titus Welliver. Anytime he shows up anywhere, I like Titus Welliver. He's just, man, Lost,
I know. That's the thing is, why I like seeing Titus Welliver? Because I start thinking about Lost.
Oh, what a show. What a show. Yes, he's great. Again, more of him would be great. He's the FBI director where JJ is stationed, and he kind of gets suspended from him. He gets his ass handed to him or reamed out from Titus Welliver. So he's just so good at that,
Super thankless role, but
for sure. But like good talent, great face. He knows how to play that. And then of course we get the third generation, I guess the first generation of the Shaft franchise, like the man that started the whole thing. Richard Roundtree does reprise his role at the very end. And actually gets to be part of the action, which is cool.
Yes, and that's what I was going to bring up. And that's what I say, if there is a saving grace for this movie beyond just the fact of like, well, I don't take it seriously anyways, and it's like, it's whatever, it can be funny or whatever, I will say this movie does deliver what we thought the previous one should. And it does it effectively, of allowing Richard Roundtree to actually get involved in the action at the end. And I'm sorry, I like seeing that. I think if you don't, you are a soulless person. It's pretty great when he is part of the trio at the end, and he gets like he's got one of the best moments in the final action scene too, where him and the everyone's squaring off against different villains in the final shootout, and him and the henchman he's fighting, they both run out of bullets, and they say like, well, okay, let's just fight man to man, and the henchman pulls a knife, and John Shaft Sr. just pulls a gun out. He actually did have a gun and just shoots him, and you know what? Love it.
I know, and then Sam Jackson walks by him and he goes, "Oh, what? You're back to having a knife fight?" He's like, "No, hell no, I shot him." Yeah, it feels like he's back in character too. It doesn't feel like he's just Richard Roundtree. It does feel like in that action scene, I am watching three generations of Shafts. Yeah, and I
we
feel
should
like
talk about the retcon too.
Yes, the retcon that. Okay, so again, this goes back to kind of what we were talking about in the preamble, that. Back in the original version of the 2000s movie, it was supposed to be a two-hander father-son team, but then in the movie, for whatever reason, they changed it.
Scott Rudin is the reason.
Yes, I guess, yeah, sorry. Scott Rudin changes it inexplicably, and then they make it that Richard Roundtree is Shaft's uncle. So they're still related by blood, but they're uncle and nephew. Mm-hmm. Now in this movie, they have an offhanded, almost I think 80-yard line to be like, just forget all that. He's my dad, and you lied to me for decades.
He does. He literally says like when they get there, John Shaft Sr., the Richard Roundtree character, says something like, "Well, I was a pretty good dad, right?" And Samuel Jackson says, "Yeah, after you stopped pretending to be my uncle," and that's it.
Yeah,
and then we just move on. Yeah.
Which again though, it makes another deadbeat dad situation.
It does, and that's what I was just about to bring up. Is like and that's why I think that's why it's important for this movie to be a comedy, right? Because this movie's inviting you not to give a shit. Right? Mm-hmm. That's the thing about it being so silly. And because it's inviting you not to give a shit, you don't have to go back and recontextualize the original Shaft trilogy in a TV show and go like, oh, that whole time he had a son that we weren't hearing about. Mm-hmm. Also, I had to quickly do that math in my head, too, because I was like, we know that Richard Roundtree is only 8 years older than Samuel Jackson in real life. Yeah. So it's kind of strange. But then because this is the benefit, too, of Samuel Jackson being so ageless, there is a moment in the movie where they say he's a 60-year-old man, which he would have been. Samuel Jackson is older than that, but he can totally pass for 60. In fact, he can pass for like 35 in the earlier flashback. So I was like, oh, okay, well, if he's 60, he would have been born in 59. So if you assume Shaft is like in his early 30s in the first Shaft movie, okay, well, then he would have had him when he was like in his early 20s. Okay, it all works out. So like the math did check out as long as you're accepting these guys aren't playing their age.
Totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice to see them on screen.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to being like, why didn't they get to do this 20 years younger last time? And it sucks because if they did stick to their original idea, obviously there's a lot of body double for Richard Roundtree in that bit. Like, of course there is. He's an old man at that time, and I think he dies just a couple years later in real life. So he's at the end of his life anyway. But to think that there was a chance 20 years younger, he has a couple cameo scenes in the 2000s movie, but to think that they could have done, action scenes and gone toe-to-toe against Peoples Hernandez and Christian Bale, like, man, that would have been so sick. And
what about a version of that movie where Samuel Jackson has to deal with Christian Bale, but Richard Roundtree deals with Peoples?
Yes.
Right? Like, there's your movie,
And that's why I think, like, in my original thoughts, this one retroactively hurts the 2000s version a little bit even more for me, like, because I came out okay positive on that one, but this one hurts it a little bit more because you just know where the characters go, and again so it's all fine.
It's all fine, and like I said, it is that weird thing where too, it's like I kind of agree. It's like neither of us can sit here and advocate that this is like a great movie or that you have to rush out and see it. No. And like I said, I think it's not a great, if you're especially comparing it to the original Shaft, it's not like a very worthy part of the franchise. But I also walk away from it going, man, just a couple of years before he passed away, that's pretty awesome that Richard Roundtree got to come back one more time and actually be involved in like the third act action scene and be treated as like, not only that, but he is treated as the one, they have to go get his help to do this. He is actually like the final missing piece where they like literally say like, we need more firepower. We actually need to go get your grandpa, and like he is kind of like the savior at the end. And it's like, okay, that's cool. And even like the movie ending with the three of them together walking off, walking across the street, stopping traffic together. It feels like, I understand that he was in the last scene of the previous movie too, but there's something about his incorporation in this one where it feels like a better send off for Richard Roundtree to me. So
I agree.
I'm happy to see that as well.
And just to the character in general, because I'm going to ask the question we like to ask, did this deserve sequels? And, in my opinion, I'm going to say no. And the reason I say that is because I think this is a nice comedic experiment. And I think if they tried to do it again, even if it was just on TV and maybe, Sam Jackson cameoed, twice a season or something, I still don't think it can rely on Jessie T. Usher. I like the guy. I think he's very charismatic. He's very pleasant. He's very good as A-Train on The Boys. But here, JJ was not my focus as much as the movie maybe wanted it to be. And this works as kind of like on an island. Do you know what I mean? In a weird way? Like it works because the 2000s movie happened, but it works because this is kind of a capper in like watching, like you said, watching them walk across the street, I felt like, you know what, I'm good.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I like this movie well enough. I think it's funny. I might watch it again someday. You know, it's not like it's going to be a constant rewatchable for me. But I like it well enough. But yeah, I don't walk away from it saying, yeah, I really need to see more adventures of like the Shaft family. As you said, I think it's just it is a fun experiment. It's kind of neat that Samuel Jackson played the character twice and got to play two totally different versions of it. That makes it interesting, right? Even the fact that this one does feel so different than the previous one makes them more interesting together as a duology even. Yep. And hey, good news, folks. As we record this in recent days, there's been some discussion about Paramount possibly buying Warner Brothers. Well, for all you like Shaft 2000 and 2019 heads that have really been hoping for like a DVD double feature, the two of them, it could happen if Paramount buys Warner Brothers finally. Yeah. Because Paramount has the 2001 and this one is Warner Brothers. So there you go. Maybe that's the reason we need to root for that sale, so we can get a Shaft double pack, a double shafted DVD. You know, we did double shafted month, so maybe that's how it's gonna happen.
Hey, the robots are listening.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
Yeah, I guess like the final thing I'd say about this, what we were saying earlier, to just like put it succinctly into one line. I was thinking about this as we were talking. I realized what the issue is here, and I think this is where we're both coming down, is that I do think this movie intends to treat John Shaft II as like a fool. But the problem is Samuel Jackson is nobody's fool. You know, that's the issue here, right? On a script level, he is being treated as a dinosaur, an out-of-date dinosaur who represents so many old-fashioned, inappropriate today, ridiculous ideas, mentalities, notions. But when you have Samuel Jackson play that part, he is not going to be the butt of that joke. Totally. He will deliver those jokes, but he will deliver them with the confidence of Samuel Jackson. And so it upends, I think, what the movie is going for. But you're still lucky enough that it is Samuel Jackson, and he still powers through that to be like, oh boy, everything he's saying is pretty problematic, but I can't help but like the guy, you know. So it's very strange, but it makes it a very, very interesting, unique watch, you know.
Oh yeah. No, I completely, seconded entirely. I can't really even add to that. That is perfect. And again, it's the magic of the movie star. I mean, it's the reason why our movie stars are still, 45 years and above, right? You know, okay, it's like, this is the reason.
Let me ask you this question then, really, to wrap up. Sure. We both agree that this did not deserve sequels, you know. Yeah. And obviously now I don't think Jessie T. Usher. Well, maybe he'd be interested. She's still a working actor, and The Boys is ending. But we don't have Richard Roundtree anymore. You know, Samuel Jackson's not getting any younger. You wouldn't know it by looking at him. But if not, do you think the Shaft franchise should just remain dormant forever now, or what to you? Like, if you were asked, and I know we are two white guys weighing in on this, but what is the next step for Shaft, right? Because I have my thoughts about this, but I'm curious to hear what you would say.
I would say, I don't want to come down too hard on the character and or franchise, but I have found this franchise, and to be fair, I mean, I saw the first one, and I saw the 2 reboot attempts, right? I never saw the ones in between, but you already told me that they're not worth it. So even you agree that they suck. I think this is just so okay, and it sounds so pedestrian of me to boil it down that way, but the Shaft franchise to me is just it's like a whatever. I'm sorry, it just is. Like, I'm not thinking, man, I can't wait to get that box set you're talking about that you're putting into the ether. You know, I can't wait to get like the Shaft. I can't wait to get the Shaft. That's what exactly what I want. I mean, that's a jumbled answer, but I think the Shaft franchise to me is just so whatever that I have zero strong feelings, the same way I've had zero strong feelings during all 3 of these the discussions of all 3 of these movies. These 2 in particular, but we did talk about that first one. Yeah, like whatever.
I think I didn't mention this before. I should have, because we're talking about this one having a more comedic point of view, and I should have mentioned that the other thing that happens in between the 2000 Shaft and this movie was like Black Dynamite comes out, which is an amazing parody of like the blaxploitation genre, And like I don't. Have you seen Black Dynamite?
I've seen a lot of it. My a few of my really close friends love Black Dynamite.
Yeah,
and I've never actually.
Please include me in that now.
Okay,
because I love it. Yeah. And I think that what that exposed too is that in this world, right, in this current moment, it's really hard to make a modern day blaxploitation without doing a parody of blaxploitation. And so I think this movie, maybe that's another reason why they went in the comedy sense. So I kind of have this like, my answer to that question of like what to do with this franchise is kind of complicated, because part of me wants to just say, well, I haven't read the rest of the Ernest Tinyman novels, right? So maybe the idea is just to go back to the literary source. Sure. And see if maybe some of those books are pretty good, and maybe just adapt those and go back and like just, you know, actually do the books again. But I do think you come up against is Shaft just going to work in the modern day without it seeming silly
exactly
in the forefront and having to make it a comedy? And if not, so then here's where it gets tricky. I'll ask you your opinion on this too. What I was talking to Liz about this after we watched it, and I was saying, well, maybe the idea is if you make a new Shaft, to set it in the 70s, do like a period piece. I think the only thing tricky with that is then you're walking a tightrope then again, because it's like you could just make a cool 70s detective period piece and make it in the spirit of the original Shaft, but isn't it going to be really tough to not have even that feel like it's slipping into a level of like parody or a level of like self-awareness? So it's really, really tough. Honestly, I think maybe for that reason, maybe a Shaft movie is not the way to go. And honestly, we talked about earlier when we mentioned like Reacher, you know, and like the other kind of like prestige streaming series. Maybe just do like something like that with Shaft and do a Shaft TV show, and then that you can let that be like a period piece and just do like a cool 70s detective show with the Shaft character, but put it on TV where there's lower stakes, lower expectation, and maybe have each season adapt one of the Tidyman books. Maybe that's what you could do with it. If you need to do anything at all. Like, I agree kind of, like, maybe there's just something to be said for letting it lay, but if you're going to do anything more, maybe that's the answer.
Do you think this is, I mean, I don't even know if this is me talking, but it's just, I think maybe the world talking to me in this sense, but just hear me out. Do you think we're just getting too far away from just the 70s in general? Like, it is, you know, we're creeping up to 2030 here, right? So, like, we're getting into 55, 60 years from this type of movie. You know what I mean? So like to reproduce it, like let's say we just did the first Shaft again, but like really, you know, grounded it, right? We're doing a 70s thing. Do you think that this new generation will give two fucking shits about going that far, quote unquote, into the past? Like it's going to be 60 years. Like,
it would be a nostalgia play for sure, and it would definitely be for an older audience. You're right, yeah.
Right? It would have to be for, well, even older than us. And is a studio, and I mean, this is a business question now, but like, is a studio going to want to invest in all the money that goes into making a prestige period piece show like that for such a minimal audience? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because I just don't think, this is going to sound bad, but I just don't think Shaft works anymore. And especially if it's played for super realism.
Well, especially if you're not willing to push it. That's something we did mention with this one, and it's kind of telling that we never brought this up, but that tells you something about like what the direction this movie went with, tonality and everything, is that we didn't talk about how this movie also is just like so disinterested in like race relations, right? It's like that's like barely a part of this movie. I mean, we did talk about it kind of playing on like kind of more like tropes of like black culture and like blaxploitation. Although I will say one of my favorite jokes in the movie is a moment where, as we said, jokes, us laughing at jokes is not us approving of the mentality behind the jokes. But there is a moment where Samuel L. Jackson they encounter a character played by Lauren Velez named Benny. And he's like, I know her from somewhere. I really recognize her. And then they go back to his apartment where his filing system is he just has like what looks like random file folders laying all over the place.
Yeah.
But then he finds this file folder with her in it, and he says, "There it is. I knew it." And he's like, "How did you find that so quick?" Or Jessie T. Usher says, "How did you find that so quick in this mess?" And he's like, "Oh, this is my Puerto Ricans I don't trust file." and Jessie T. Usher's response is, "You have a racist filing system?" And Shaft the second goes, "Isn't that how the FBI does it?" And I love that Jessie Tusher goes like, "Yeah, actually." That's a great joke. That is a great joke about race and racism in America, right? But otherwise, the movie usually seems disinterested in this, right? The main villain is, again, not a rich white guy. It is a black drug dealer with just like a couple white henchmen. But yeah, if you're not interested in doing a movie about that, then maybe you're not. Why bother making a Shaft movie?
Yeah,
I think if you do a modern Shaft movie, obviously the same issues that Shaft was addressing regarding race in the 70s, it's not like they've gone away in America. In fact, we're living in a time that's making that quite clear. So really, I'd want like a new Shaft movie to be something like what Rebel Ridge was on Netflix last year. You know, like a movie that is actually directly addressing those kind of issues. Like I would say, I don't want this to sound reductive, and I hope it doesn't come across that way. But I would say, even though he's not playing that character, like to me, like Rebel Ridge is like a better Shaft movie than either of these were. You know,
right?
Because it's like more directly about like a black hero fighting shitty white, supremacists and everything. Like, so that's kind of what I want a modern Shaft movie to be. If someone has the guts to do that. I don't know if any big studio would, but if someone had the guts to make that movie, I'm down for it. Otherwise, yeah, you're probably right that. Otherwise, you're just making a nostalgic piece for people who are like, yeah, I like that the old blaxploitation tropes, and I want to see it again. So
totally,
yeah,
totally
too bad.
Yeah, it is too bad because again, regardless of both of our opinions on the franchise, really, there's a pretty big place in film history that it's carved out. So
yeah,
but like everything, I think things need to end, and the
first one will always be there, and it's always going to have its
100%.
important piece. So
100%.
like, and people are going to keep, however, like you feel about the Samuel Jackson ones, people are always going to keep returning to the original Shaft. Like, and that's so, and there's not many movies that can say that. So it's nice to see a movie that held on and even like arguably creates a whole genre.
Totally,
so,
100%. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, that's been double shafted September. Very fun episodes, I'll say right now. Great discussion. So, and honestly, I didn't know what to expect from these two movies. We kind of threw them in a long time ago for this month, and it really worked out. So very, very cool. Very cool. Okay. Moving on. Okay, Trev, we love themes. I always say this. We love our themes, and we have themes, baby. We have themes all the way into next year. Just saying it now, so whenever any other Matrix moments happen, well, technically this might actually be a Matrix moment because I'll actually explain it. It's the month of October. So we thought, let's do some horror stuff. Let's go back to the roots of Halloween and this and that, right? Let's do some horror stuff. And Trev's the big horror guy, like I like to try to follow in some footsteps of what to watch and blah blah blah. But he's the guy, and he's also the guy for this film franchise. Because as longtime listeners know, well, I guess first of all we should just say the name and the theme. We're going to be talking a lot of Resident Evil, okay? And the reason why I say the Matrix moment that just happened, that movie Weapons came out, and the director, Zach Kreger, his next film is actually the reboot to Resident Evil. So we placed these in October fucking months ago, way before we knew that this guy was going to be doing the reboot, and then he's big, and then nobody knew that Weapons was going to be as big as it was. So, here we go. The theme month is called. Well, first of all, what do you do in Halloween, Trev? What do you go do when you go door to door? What do you say?
Well, I don't do it anymore because I'm an adult. Actually, I shouldn't say.
Yeah,
that
hold
because,
on. We talked a lot of toys last episode.
No, and I was going to say too. I hate when people say adults can't do this, and I fully support people of any age doing it.
Right.
But I like to give out candy while others do what you're asking to, and that is of course the great Halloween tradition of trick or treat.
Yes, trick or treat. But we're talking about Resident Evil. So, this is a little squirrely, listeners. So follow me along, and it might be better when you read it. On the podcast app.
Or not.
Or not. But we're calling this theme month Trick Our Resident Treeville. Trick Our Resident Treeville.
Yeah, totally makes sense. I don't know why anyone would question that. Yeah.
Dude, that's that. Well, it's not quite Mark Wahlberg and the Yucky Bunch, but it's getting there. Okay, so October 7th, next episode, we're doing our spin-off show, Success to Series. So we're gonna actually talk about all the Mila Jovovich Resident Evil films and why they succeeded, why they're so big, all the money they made, and why they tried to reboot it.
Cinematic legacy of Paul W.S. Anderson. Yes.
Yes. And then why they tried to reboot it with our October 21st episode, Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City from 2021. So, Trick or Resident Evil starts with a success to series about the Resident Evil franchise that Mila Jovovich started and kept it going from start to finish. And then October 21st, Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. I believe on straight to Netflix. Did that go to theaters?
No, that had a theatrical release. You're thinking of there was a Netflix Resident Evil series, which also only had one season, but we don't deal in that shit. Thankfully.
No.
So, yeah. But I still think it'll be fascinating. I'll just say right now, I've never seen Welcome to Raccoon City, but I do think it's just, we've done success to series before where we like to take a brief, every once in a while take a brief aside and talk about a franchise that actually did work and what we like about it to contrast it with all the failures we talk about. But we've never directly followed one of those with a failed version of that same thing.
Yeah.
And so I think that's going to be really, really cool to kind of contrast, why did these work? In particular, I think what's really going to be fascinating about this is, even though I haven't seen the movie, I know from just outside looking in and just on a surface level, we are going to try to examine why a 6-film series that most people would say is not a great adaptation of the video game succeeded, whereas a more accurate adaptation of the video game failed.
Yeah,
so I think
totally.
that's going to be very, very fun to kind of try and figure that out.
Yeah, no, it's going to be awesome. So I was recently doing my homework of rewatching the Resident Evil movies. Trev is in the midst of doing his rewatch. Yep. So we're going to be fresh. Yeah, it's going to be cool. I'm excited. Yeah, Trick or Resident Evil.
And honestly, anytime we get to revisit Mila is just good times.
Yes, and again, maybe that's a theme month that I should direct listeners. I will in the next episode too, but we did years ago, we did Mila Jovovich.
Yeah. 2 whole months dedicated to our queen. Let's just say it.
Yes,
As nerds,
yes.
she is our queen. Yes.
So go in your podcast app, just search Mila Jovovich, and they should come up because I'm sure her name is in the SEOs. Yeah, that'll do it. Okay. Follow along at F2F pod. That's at F2 the number 2 F pod on all the socials. I had to think about it. Like us there, like us everywhere. Rate, review, whatever you do. A starting would be great. And then just join the tribe and hit that subscribe. And happy Halloween coming up. And let's trick or Resident Evil. I'm going to say it as many times as possible until it sticks.
We're going to keep saying it until someone gets it so locked in their head that that's what they say when they go up to someone's door. This is nope, no candy for you.
No. Yeah, this one, the jokes I think are funny and you think are funny. I don't want to turn people off too hard.
This is definitely the movie ended and Liz looks at me and she's like, "We have to talk." And I was like, "I understand." And I was trying to defend it. I'm like, "I know, I get it." And I'm like, "I understand." And I'm like, "I'm not approving of this, but I just think it's funny." And and then we had this long conversation about how they can improve the movie. This was funny. I was looking for an opportunity to bring this up in the episode and it never really naturally came up.
Sure.
But we were talking what doesn't work about the movie afterwards, and we were talking about the same kind of conversation, what could you do with a Shaft movie now? Mm-hmm. And she was just talking about how all the dialogue in this felt so forced and everything. And she was like, well, imagine if this was Quentin Tarantino writing it. And then later she's like, I also don't think that guy playing JJ was that great. Imagine if it was Michael B. Jordan. And I had to be like, yes, you're right. This would be a better movie if it was written and directed by Quentin Tarantino and had Michael B. Jordan. What a hot take,